residents of the Fourth State, all of those who are joining us online, welcome to this special press briefing that we're hosting. The purpose of this press briefing is to address the CCC, or the Citizens Movement's position on Zimbabwe's readmission to the Commonwealth. Just to bring everyone up to speed, as you're going to hear very shortly from our chain champion-in-chief, there is a citizens delegation that met with the Commonwealth grouping today, and our chain champion-in-chief, Advocate NelsonChamisa, is shortly going to share the substance of the key points relating to that briefing, as well as the position of our movement in connection with that. So without further ado, I'm going to defer proceedings to our chief spokesman.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you, Chain Champion, Advocate Mahere. Thank you, members of the press. Thank you, Chain Champions here present. Today, we just met our colleagues, the delegation of the Commonwealth, led by Assistant Secretary Professor Louis Franceschi. As a citizen movement, and as the next government in Zimbabwe, we participated in this meeting fully aware and conscious of the obligation that we have, the obligation to make sure that we participate in the ongoing consultative processes, the engagement process that seeks to see Zimbabwe being readmitted into the Commonwealth. We took the opportunity to brief the Commonwealth on a number of issues. In particular, we focused on the political situation in Zimbabwe. We emphasized what is occurring in the country in terms of the political climate, the breakdown and state of the rule of law, the situation and circumstances to do with the human rights in Zimbabwe. And of course, we also zeroed in on the issue of the electoral environment, the economic situation, and the corruption that is obtained. I'll highlight our major issues and areas of focus as we submitted our recommendations and our position. On the political climate and the breakdown of the rule of law, we emphasize that Zimbabwe essentially suffers from a crisis of governance. It is a crisis that is born out of disputed elections, illegitimacy, and we have noted that Zimbabwe is buffeted by a set of circumstances that have germinated acrimony, division, disputed national processes and outcomes, a disputed leadership, toxicity, the lack of legitimacy. This has essentially been the problem of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is in a leadership crisis. Zimbabwe is in a legitimacy crisis, a governance crisis. We noted the absence of a genuine, inclusive, and comprehensive dialogue with Zimbabwe. We made reference to the closure of the democratic space. We made emphasis on the fact that we are seeing an increase in the repressive tendencies and dictatorial tendencies on the part of the incumbent government. We made reference to the issue of the PVO bill, the Private Voluntary Organization Bill, MOPA, the Maintenance of Order and Peace Act, the proposed Patriotic Bill. We highlighted that the attack and persecution of the civil society in Zimbabwe is an alarming, including targeting of human rights defenders, trade unions, the student movement, our teachers, our journalists, lawyers, and in some circumstances, the church. Politicians from different outlets have been targeted. Those from the citizens' movement, the people see, have not been spared. We have also seen that a number of them have also been targeted, particularly the MRP activists who are incarcerated. And what shocks us and shared with the Commonwealth is the inability and incapacity of our police, the Zimbabwe Republic Police, perhaps incapacitated by ZANU-PF. They seem to have this inability to deal with the challenges and incidents of incitement of violence, especially by cabinet ministers. We have seen cabinet ministers making statements that incite violence, but nothing has happened. You know the names. It's public, it's common cause. Nothing has been done to these individuals in government. On the human rights situation, we noted the deteriorating human rights situation in the country, in particular, the selective application and weaponization of the law, the persecution by prosecution. We have seen pre-trial incarceration on the increase, denial of bail where bail is due and a constitutional right. In particular, we noted the issue of the Nyatsime 17, who did spend over 150 days on account of a mere allegation. An allegation is not a conviction. An allegation is simply that, just an allegation. It has to be proved. We've seen our members of parliament being persecuted. Honorable Scala, Job, and Stole Godfrey. They're part of the 17 that have been incarcerated. We also highlighted the plight of political prisoners from other political parties, as I have already indicated, MRP included. The abduction and torture of our members, cases that are before the police. The murder of our activists, Boneni Ngue and others, violence against women, you know what happened to Honorable Tofa, the weaponization of food, particularly in the rural areas, where we have seen an increase in abuse and victimization of traditional leaders for partisan purposes, instigated with impunity and immunity by ZANU-PF from their topmost echelon. ZANU-PF members continue to incite and perpetrate violence with reckless abandon, and this must be termed and arrested. On the electoral environment, we note the general lack of political will to implement a credible, inclusive, and a comprehensive electoral reform regime. The electoral environment has been marred by political violence, violation of the right to vote, refusal to implement the diaspora vote, and we have made the point that there is no taxation without representation. If you are receiving remittances from the diaspora, surely you must be able to also accept that they have to vote and express themselves. We also made the mention of the issue of the credible voters' roll. That has to be unveiled to all the participants, the stakeholders. The issue of an independent audit firm. We want the voters' roll that is going to be used in 2023 to be audited by a reputable firm, so that we do not have a shambolic voters' roll, a disputed voters' roll, and a discredited. The issue of lack of a real-time, verifiable, and accountable results management system continues to be a source of concern. You saw what happened in Kenya. You saw what happened in Angola. Results have to be real-time. Results have to be posted on the public portal, wherein people are able to assess and access the results, including members of the press. We have also made the mention of the point of the credibility and independence of the electoral management body. There has been an emphasis on the security of the vote and the voter, particularly in the rural areas where we have seen an escalation in assisted voters and command voting. There's also been an increase, as I have already indicated, of political violence against citizens, including Honorable Tofa, our female MP, and other political leaders and activists from across the length and breadth of Zimbabwe. We've seen the disruption and banning of our political meetings and a violation of that important freedom, the freedom of association and freedom of assembly, including even press conferences. On the economic front, we made and underscored the point that 49% of Zimbabweans now live in deadening, extreme, and abject poverty. And we highlighted that the general situation and hardship in the country has escalated. The situation is now worse. There has been an escalation in suffering of the people, particularly on account of bad governance, economic mismanagement, corruption, and a disputed leadership. Zimbabweans do not have access to public services, including healthcare, quality education, social security, and safety nets. Poverty and economic hardship are all as a result of bad governance. And this has forced over 5 million Zimbabweans to flee the country. Over 2 billion is lost to corruption and illicit financial flows annually. And over the years, we've also seen that 100 million is lost just to smuggling each month. And I must emphasize that the fact that we have the Commonwealth coming to Zimbabwe at this particular juncture, hardly some few months ago, we also had the United Nations special rapporteur to deal with the sanctions. There was a humanitarian report. We've had a number of delegations coming to Zimbabwe. What it tells you is that Zimbabwe is in a difficult situation. Zimbabwe is being treated as a sick country that has to come out of hospital, that has to come out of the sick bed. And that sickness is supposed to be cured by all of us as citizens. And this is why, in our proposal of a way forward, to make sure that we move out of this drug rehabilitation as a drug rehab victim, we need to do a number of things. And this is our way forward. We want what is good for the country, what is good for Zimbabwe. We support everything that stands for and respects the Constitution, the citizens of Zimbabwe, and the people's rights. As the next government, the incoming government, our firm view is that Zimbabwe must normalize relations with all progressive forces, nations, and global institutions, including the Commonwealth, in pursuit of mutual cooperation and national interests. In any event, the original withdrawal from the Commonwealth by Zimbabwe was partisan, ill-conceived, not done in line with national interest, unilateral, and we opposed it then, as we oppose it now. It was not done in pursuit of common national interest. Currently, ZANU-PF and bad politics is standing in the way of Zimbabwe being readmitted into the Commonwealth. This is why we continue to speak to ZANU-PF, to our colleagues across the political divide, to also respect the need for good governance, the need for respecting their competitors, the need for respecting citizens, so that we are able to start building bridges. We have seen that over the past few years, our colleagues in ZANU-PF, instead of building bridges, they have decided to build walls. Instead of maintaining gates unto the world, they have erected iron gates that obstruct our access to the world. We call for a value-based, principles-driven, time-bound and process-benchmarked readmission of Zimbabwe to the Commonwealth, guided by the Commonwealth Charter itself and the Harare Commonwealth Declaration of 1991. We make the position and we make the position clear that as Zimbabwe, we need to find each other. At the moment, we failed to find each other. We are talking at each other, against each other. We need to start talking to each other to resolve our fundamental challenges. It takes two to tango. There is no nation that is one side. There is no nation that is one party. A nation is all parties. We have to come together and reason as a people to resolve our issues so that we terminate disputed issues in politics, in national processes. Zimbabwe needs a sincere, genuine national dialogue on political and electoral reforms, underwritten and scaffolded by a credible arbiter, facilitator, or a moderator, so that the process is credible. The holding of credible, free, and fair elections should be a benchmark and a test case for a process to readmit Zimbabwe into the Commonwealth. And because of this, we emphasize the environment that leads to the elections in 2023, which has to be peaceful, it has to be inclusive, and it has to be credible, so that the election itself is beyond contestation and disputation. We have already emphasized that within SADC, let the guidelines and principles governing democratic elections and the African Charter on Democracy and Governance be the benchmark and the standard. That position stands. And that was our submission to our colleagues, the delegation that came representing the Commonwealth. I thank you. God bless you. God bless you.
So as usual, we're going to take a few questions arising from the press briefing that's been delivered by Advocate NelsonChamisa. As is our usual procedure, kindly identify yourself, the news house or media outlet that you're coming from, and then ask one question so that we can get as many as possible. We'll just take a few because the president has to attend to another engagement, but we do want to make sure that we thoroughly canvass the question of Zimbabwe's readmission to the Commonwealth. Yes, sir.
My name is NelsonChamisa. I'm from 264. Or you can hear this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So after you meet with the Commonwealth delegation and you get the new submission, what was their response to your issue?
Well, the most important thing is to hear two sides of the story. There is no full story without sides. They've heard our side. I'm sure they also heard the side of ZANU-PF. I'm sure they are going to also try and get the ZANU-PF president's side, Mr. Mnangagwa. That's why we have said this is our take, this is our view, and this is what we have submitted. As to their decision, we await their feedback, but we are gratified that we had the opportunity to represent Zimbabwe. I know that what we say is a representation of the men across the length and breadth of Zimbabwe who would want to see Zimbabwe normalizing relations. In fact, we should not be having enemies around the world. We must be having friends around the world. But of course, any nation will have enemies. But ours must be an effort to make sure that we build more friends than we deliberately create enemies.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lovejoy. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I'm Pindai Dwe from ENCA. President Chamisa, soon after the arrival of the Commonwealth delegation, we have realized a mass release of political prisoners, especially from your party. What's your comment about that? 2 days after the arrival?
Well, I suppose that question is better answered by my colleague, Mr. Mnangagwa. He's the one who presides over ultimately the imprisonment and arrest of people, of course, through prosecution and the police. So for you to expect me to say why the people were released after the Commonwealth camp, your case is as good as ours. We believe that good behavior is something that should not be imposed by those from outside. We must just be good to each other. We must just be good to citizens. There is no reason why George Scala, Godfrey Stolle, and the Nyatsime 15 were incarcerated. They had not committed any crime. We still insist that they are not guilty. They are innocent. And the law says that you are innocent until proven guilty. But you can't be proven guilty by incarceration through pre-trial incarceration. And we have made that point. We don't understand why they have to spend over 150 days behind bars. It's not necessary. If they have an issue, let the matter be tried. If they have a case to answer, let it be the judgment and decision of the court. So yes, Commonwealth came, we saw certain things happening, but we have no reason to look at the outsiders as to the reason for our colleagues being released. But we are happy that they are released, except for two whom we are still making effort to make sure that they are reduced.
Thank you.
Effort Msekiwa, SABC News. We've heard your side of the story, what you did tell the Commonwealth. But just out of interest, what did the Commonwealth tell you? What are they expecting from Zimbabwe?
Well, the Commonwealth, their meeting with us is a confirmation that we're a dominant voice in the country and that we represent the majority of citizens. I'm sure they've also met ZANU-PF. So if you want to have a full picture, you must meet all the players. We are one of the players. They've understood what we are saying. They may not necessarily agree with us. They don't need to agree with us. But they have to respect our input. Hopefully, whatever they are going to come up as the report with is a reflection of what we said and what was also said by other voices. But I can tell you that there is mutual respect, and we have no reason to doubt that they will give a credible report, and hopefully our issues will be resolved. All we want is to see Zimbabwe on a path to restoration of relations, normalizing relations, but more importantly, passing the credibility test, passing the accountability test, passing the democratic test, passing the constitutionality test, but more importantly, passing the majority will test. Are we respecting the will of the people of Zimbabwe? That is the end, and that is what we respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members of the state, for coming at quite short notice to this press briefing. We did view it as important so that everybody is very clear on our position on the Commonwealth. So thank you very much, obviously, to our trade champion-in-chief and to all our colleagues, trade champions. Thank you very much for coming.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.